without further ado, let me bring to the cypher, man, the man of the hour, our special guest tonight. Brother, the way we do it around here, it's like a cypher, so real MCs don't need anybody to introduce them. They introduce themselves. I just asked 3 questions. Who you is, where you from, and what you rep, word player.
Yeah, man. Shawn J. Period. From VA and New York at this point, and rep Drumstacks and all of the young and up and coming producers out there.
Bam, bam. We are in the fucking cypher with Shawn J. Period. Thank you so very much for coming down to Miami and building with us tonight, brother. Thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to hip hop heads and freaking beat lovers like us, man, and lovers of your music. Thank you so very much, brother.
Appreciate it, brother.
We've been for the last 30 minutes digesting some of your gems that you've produced, man, from the ones that took the underground by storm to the ones that maybe some of us missed when we were younger, watching the video jukebox, watching Yo MTV Raps, right? I have a load of questions, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, man. Let's do this organized. Let me bring up my questions like an organized journalist, man. John, brother, you said you're from VA. That is Virginia for everybody out there who is not geographically inclined. Can you please tell the people at home what it was like for you growing up in Virginia and early musical influences coming out of Virginia, man? Because Virginia is a melting pot for great producers, man.
Yeah. Early influences, obviously, being on the East Coast, a lot of shows would come down from New York. So New York City Fresh Fest, all those different things. So, New York, Richmond was a place where a lot of people would come through town. So, Fat Boys and, Salt and Pepper, you name it. It was just definitely a stop, right? I would say musically, my dad probably was my biggest influence. He wasn't a musician, but definitely like a record collector, collected a lot of jazz, not necessarily Coltrane, stuff like that, but more like Herbie Hancock, Roy Ayers and stuff. So that's why I ended up getting a lot of influence from, those early things and stuff like that. But growing up VA it's a good place, man. Good place to be. It's mid-Atlantic, so we get a lot of influences from the north, from DC to go to, Southern music. So it's just a really good blend of everything.
And it's beautiful out there, man. I had my aunt used to live out there. She used to work for NASA out there in Newport Beach. And I think Newport News is called.
Newport News.
Yeah, yep. And I would spend some summers up there, so I'm familiar with King's Dominion and
yeah.
What's a big water park you guys got out there?
Water Country.
Water Country USA. Oh man.
Yeah, Water Country USA.
Oh, what a freaking time, man. I wanted to bring back. I've been doing my research, man, and studying because I love your music, but I didn't know how deep it went. I didn't know how many artists you touched and worked with coming up before we started seeing you on every Ruckus single that was out, man. It seemed like during that 1998, 99, 2000 era, everybody was getting Shawn J. Period work, and it was all fantastic. Right now, we were playing. I'm like, man, I love that joint. Oh, I love that joint.
Appreciate it.
But one thing that I thought was super cool, I saw this interview you did with I think they're called Mid-Atlantic Radio.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. The homie goes by B. Salute to
Be Nice. So
Be
Bryce.
Nice.
Bryce.
Yeah, man. Salute to Mid-Atlantic Radio. He did a great job, man. And real dope drop that you did. You said one of my first rhymes that I learned was the double Dutch bus, and I thought that was super dope, man. Right? Because people go back to the first rap that they learned. Mine was Slick Rick, freaking children's stories, or maybe some Beastie Boys joints. But for you to come up with the double Dutch bus, man, I thought that was real dope because it shows the funk influence and that your musical history went down deep, man. And
for sure,
Parliament is freaking fantastic, man. Could you tell the people at home that might not know, before you started producing, you were actually an MC, right?
For sure, yeah. Ultimately, that's how I landed in New York. I was in a group down south. We didn't go up there as the group down south. We went up there as signed on the label as the J Team. All of us had last name with J.
The J Team,
like the J Team,
with a black van and stuff. That's awesome.
Well, yeah. So but we signed to Big Beat Atlantic Records, and that's how I landed in New York and stuff like that. So, but
When,
was an MC. Look,
when you pen your first rhymes and stuff early, because I wanted to get into down south, because actually that was a freaking awakening for me. I had never heard down south, and actually me and my man Glib Styles have a group we're working on now. He's from Alabama. It's called Southern Comfy. And then when I saw the Southern Comfort video, I'm there like, oh, that's dope. And the single we have out is horn heavy at the beginning, and the fact that you guys start off Southern Comfort with the horns,
right.
It was all our vibe. I'm there like, oh, that is freaking beautiful. One of those kismet things and stuff, like, yo, you're walking in the right direction, man. So tell the people at home, what was your first experience on picking up the pen and saying, hey, let me try to put some of these thoughts down.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely when I was young. It had a lot of influences, obviously, from different people. My cousin Tyrone, and a lot of people influence you, man. It's like he grew up really in the city. I grew up in the rural area, right? But he would come back, and I remember getting a VHS tape of like all kinds of people from look, even like Luke, like just so many different people wanted, right? Like Power Rule to a Gangstar, we Manifest to King T to Sir Mix-a-Lot. It was just like everything.
Wow,
and
that's a huge swath of different regional freaking hip hop, man. That's
man,
great.
I wore that. I don't even know if I gave that videotape back, to be honest. I hope it did. Sorry, Tyrone. But
what was the Sir Mix-a-Lot track on that?
Posse on.
My posse's on Broadway.
Yeah.
Me and Kid Sensation on a home away from home in a black Benz limo and a cellular phone. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That junk was freaking fire.
But
man.
I say that to say like that, I was writing prior to that, right? Just obviously picking up the pen. But I would say that the first time I really did it was probably like fourth grade, maybe. Like, just dabbling and stuff like that. But I started making beats as really a support to my rhymes. I didn't start as a producer, you know what I mean? And then a couple of times, we do like the battles in high school and stuff like that. And a couple of people said, hey, you ought to think about producing. But I was like, I didn't even come to New York because I just produced. It was just a function for me to rap over, you know what I mean? And then when we got signed, Stretch Armstrong and Rob Reef Too Low, those guys, and when we were working with the Beat Nuts after we had gotten signed, right? My penmanship obviously, was still going, but it facilitated my rhymes, and then it ended up flipping where became more of a producer. So not to draw you out. I know we're on the radio.
No, not even, brother. That is it's great. Whereas artists, we can be able to evolve and change and be able to pivot into new strengths and not have ourselves constrained, man. I've always been a cat who hears samples and like, oh, that would sound good, but I'm two left hands around technology, so I would suck at it. But I have boys who were nasty at the rhymes, and then they're like, oh, I think I want to start producing, and I was like, man, just try to focus on one skill and stuff. They're like, nah, I'm gonna try to produce, and they were nasty producing and stuff, and you never know, man. Just give it a try. And so, did you produce the early demo stuff for the J team that later became Down South?
Correct. Yes. A lot of some of the stuff made it, like Southern Comfort, which you mentioned. Southern Comfort was an earlier version, but that was basically the version, beefed it up a little bit. Most of the demo for sure, And then because the DJ, Mayor, or what was his rap DJ name? Oh, I haven't thought about it so long. If it comes to me, but his name is Mayor. Okay. So he worked with Bobito, so that's how we ended up in New York. So then he ended up passing the demo on, and then Stretch heard it. Stretch was A&R at Big Beat Atlantic, you know what I mean? So it was the connective tissue there.
So you guys didn't get signed and head up to New York. You guys headed up to New York on a wing and a prayer, like, let's see.
No, we got signed.
Okay, so you guys got signed for
Yeah. So we did the demo. He let him hear it.
Okay.
Bobito liked it, gave it to Stretch, because they had the Stretch and Bobito show, you know what I mean? So at that point, Stretch was A&R for Big Beat Atlantic. That's how he heard it, and it goes from there.
So who was all in Down South? Because I saw you rhyming the first verse on the Southern Comfort, then I see your man's in it and stuff. Was it? But then
my cousin Jeremy, he was Soda Pop, and dude, I have to get Mayor. I mean, that's his real name, but man, I can't even think of the DJ name, man. Gosh, that's bad. I haven't had to really say it in so long. So
I don't call him by his
throughout
DJ
this
name. I call him by
conversation,
your.
I think it'll come to me. I'm just gonna pop it. All of a sudden, I'm gonna say the name, and then we'll go from there.
Don't worry, they could Google it and stuff. But so you guys are rocking in Virginia, rocking sets. I heard you guys were rocking at your local college out there.
Mhm.
When is it that you get the call, and what's that like, man, for a group in Virginia for a major label? I mean, how, like, being from Miami and a lot of hip hop acts that have been out here since the '90s, grinding it out here. It's hard when you're this far down south, man. Very little from New York would get down here, and definitely the
Right.
business side of it to get signed, A&R, scouts and stuff, talent, right? They weren't really looking down south like that. So
Right.
what was it like for you guys to get that plug in, and what was it like for you when you turned around and told your parents, yeah, this little college hobby I'm doing and stuff,
Right.
I'm gonna go to New York and freaking try to make this into a career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, super excited. I mean, we were, just doing local shows at local college, VCU in Richmond, and we would come down to like further south. We came like Jack the Rapper in Atlanta. And
Okay.
we would just travel, right, different places. And because my Mayor worked there, we worked on the demo. He gave it. I think it was like in the fall. We got the news really in the winter of, man, what year was that? It was
So Mayor is your
92,
DJ.
like
That's
91.
Mayor is your DJ that was originally from New York, and he moved to Virginia, from
Correct.
what I remember.
Correct.
Okay, and
Correct.
that's
Yeah,
how
his family was
that's
from
how
there.
he's got these
Yeah,
connects with Stretch and
the
stuff. Okay,
connections. And then
gotcha.
he worked A&R. He worked as an intern at Def Jam with
Okay,
Bobito, which what I mean. So the connective tissue is there, right? And then, but once we found that they were interested, obviously it was super exciting and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it parents wise, they weren't that. I remember having a parent meeting at my cousin's house, and they were like, "Yeah, this deal is on the table."
it's the whole family that got to get
Yeah,
involved. It's
like
the two
all of us
cousins,
parents got
bro.
together, and we were like, "We want to do this," and they're like, "Well, you can't move to New York and pursue it unless you get a deal." And then right after that is when we got the deal, so it forced the hand. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then we ended up living with Mayor, his family's, just so gracious to us. We ended up living with them, and we ended up living a block over from Biggie. So we ended up when we came to New York, we didn't even, where we got situated, was in close to downtown Brooklyn, and block over from Biggie. So we saw Biggie on the block before Biggie was signed. You know what I mean? And just
Wow.
all kinds of stuff, man. So it was a fascinating experience.
Well, it was funny on the Mid Atlantic interview. It's funny, the homie B asked you, "Oh yeah, did you cipher with them?" You're like, "Nah, man, they were hustling. Yeah, they weren't trying to fuck.
Yeah, nah,
They
that
weren't
was a
spitting no
totally
rhymes
different
out
thing,
there.
man.
It was a whole
It was-
different Biggie." Yo, so you get to New York, man. You start building out there. It's one of the super interesting parts of your story, of your backstory,
Mm,
that I had no idea of, is how you start building with Bob and Stretch and with the Beatnuts, and start under a tutelage of the business under them, man. One thing is getting signed and getting raped by a label, man, going in there blind, some naive kids from Virginia who just want to freaking
right.
do this hip hop because we see it on TV. But for I know you're a man of faith, man. I know your
Yeah,
family is too, man. And
sure.
you must. I could only imagine the amount of praying that goes in behind closed doors, sending you guys out to New York, like, God, please be with them. And
Yeah,
though it might not be the safest or Christian, but you land with Bobito and Stretch and the Beatnuts, cats who have been in the industry and have a love for this and know about the shystiness of the industry, and you have them as mentors and big brothers. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up under their tutelage, and how that affected your producing? Because you claimed that around this time is when you started saying, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go at this production side of it hard, right?
yeah. And I mean, I became more devout as a Christian years later, right? So when I came up with it was just, hey, I'm excited to be here. But it was one of the best scenarios. And then we're not gonna talk like the deal wise, the deal was decent, right? But there was some faults in the deal that and we end up like signing over like some publishing, some like just some stuff that on the business. But from a treatment standpoint, I mean, it was the best scenario for us, man, because it was like we could have landed anywhere, right? And with anybody, but they took us under their wings and really like it wasn't just like, hey, Stretch, I'm the A&R and that's it. Like we're hanging in Stretch's house. Like he's taking us, he used to DJ a lot at the clubs, like Nels and different, always invite us. Like they didn't just leave us there, you know what I'm saying? It was like, and Bob, everybody was great, and the Beat Nuts, because they were working on the album, and I'm really just budding as a producer, I would just go visit them, each of them in different ways. Les was the only one I didn't visit as much. It was really VIC and Juju, right? And then T Ray, who was doing a lot of stuff, he ended up doing stuff later for the Artifacts, and he did like the Double X Posse. He had a single that maybe Cypress Hill or House of Pain. He was just doing all kinds of stuff, right? So he was a big influence as well. And I say that without that experience as a producer, like I was there, I was writing and stuff like that, but they were the ones that, Reef, who was the A&R, who became the A&R after Stretch, right? Because Stretch eventually stepped off as A&R. So Rob, Reef, Tulo, they just really, they saw it like, hey, you should really think about this. You know what I mean? And I always make a reference to the Tribe song, The Business, when Diamond D was talking about, make cheese about a couple of G's, right? And I never thought about being a producer as a way of life. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm an MC. But because they encouraged me, and then I got to sit at the feet of these guys who they were hot. They were still establishing themselves, right? But we were seeing, obviously they rhyme, they do, like it just was, it was the best scenario for us, and all love from them, no, regardless of, religious, spiritual background, stuff like that, all love, man, like they, like brothers, you know what I mean? And, it just really good experience in that respect.
And it thickens the porridge that you came out of and started cooking, man. One of the little tidbits, Easter eggs that I found in that interview that I love, and I'd be remiss not to share with my fans. Your first SP 1200 that you ended up producing Universal Magnetic on was actually freaking what, VIC's
VIC, yeah.
SP and stuff that he sold to you. Yo, freaking super dope, man. So that's an SP that produced, I'm sure, some of the joints that freaking came out of freaking the earlier Beat Nuts albums and stuff. And it later becomes what you produced a mad amount of joints on. You're from Virginia. We played a joint from a Virginia freaking, one of the biggest names to come out of Virginia before the Missy and Timbaland era, right? Freaking Mad Skills was every MC's fucking superhero from freaking that wasn't from New York, man. Could you tell us a little? And what's dope is you didn't meet Mad Skills in Virginia, right?
Not at all. Yeah. So and that's when I was in the transition. After we were down south, we had the one album, one video. We ended up getting released from the label, right? It's business, right? That's the way it works. And went through like a slight depression, like, because you lay yourself on the line, and then you're not thinking like this is business, particularly when you have such good relationships with all the players involved. But when it comes down to it, the corporation has to make its decision. You're costing this amount of money, you're not bringing this money, so we have to cut our losses and move on, like, but from that point, I had already gotten hired at the post office. My dad was like, "Hey, boy, you got to get a job." You know what I mean? And
I ain't gonna fund you
up there. Support you
from
afar, But right. Look, I was going through training, and right then I just submitted some demos to Reef, who was the A&R at Big Beat, and Skills obviously was on Mad Skills on Big Beat at the time, and he ended up picking 3, and that literally changed my trajectory, as far as where I was going to go. Obviously I didn't go to the post office, like, hey, no, this is what I'm going to do, and so
wow.
that's
Another time your parents are like, Lord, please just lead them to a good stable job, and the door is
Yeah, nah,
open
they
and stuff.
didn't care, man. Long as I was, long as I would he'd keep calling back leaning, you
As
know
long
what I
as you
mean?
weren't calling him, yo, I need another 100. Yeah,
Yeah,
yo, man.
yeah, yeah.
Getting the Mad Ills nod. 3 songs on his first album, man. We just played one that was freaking fantastic, where he freaking kills half of humanity, freaking to show he's the best MC, freaking the
Mm,
genocide song. After that, you start, and this is where I didn't know, man. You done works with Artifacts. You're
okay.
practically a third member of the Artifacts on their second album, on their
Yeah, for
on their
sure.
sophomore album. You got 7 tracks produced on that. Could you tell the people at home a little bit about how being resilient got you to be the major producer on that Artifacts album, at least having 7 tracks on it?
Right. Yeah. And obviously we were label mates, right? So they were signed to the label prior to us being released. So we were building some rapport and plus stretching them. It was all, you know, we all interacted. And once we were released, they had this success. They moved on to the second album. And I was at that point, I was focusing on actually being a producer, right? Independent producer doing stuff. And I kept doing it. And I remember in the beginning, they were like, nah, that's not it. Like, and I mean, I was so in love with just their styles and
Mhm.
diversity between them. And just, it was like, I was like, nah, okay, all right, that's not it. And would just keep going back. And L knows the number. He would talk about how when I submit a tape, it seemed like they would always pick like number 2 and number 7. Like it's some weird thing he said that kept happening, right? But I just kept submitting to him. And once they started recording, they were recording at Platinum Island, and where I was working with Duro, the engineer who ended up, doing like, with Desert Storm and
Okay.
mix all kind of stuff. He's A&R at Republic now. Like he just super great guy, right? And so we were there in the tracking room, and it was just a perfect scenario because it was just like I was able to, hey, submit something. Once we got some traction going, then I just kept going at it and going at it and going at it and going at it. And they gravitated towards it. My sound was changing during that time too. And I was doing a lot of like sound chop things. And like when you really listen to like the songs, they were different tempos, different, from where your skills at is like kind of a rugged, like,
Okay.
mean
Okay.
style to 31 Bum Rush, kind of bouncy, you know what I mean? And they were reinventing themselves and I was reinventing myself, and it just locked, and because I made a decision to just like, I'm okay, I'm just gonna keep doing it. And I can say that outside of the Down South album, that was really the next set of where I did a good amount. Like Skills, I did 3, which is still a solid amount,
Mhm.
right? But the Artifacts, I got a chance to feel like I influenced the album more. But then with all the other producers came around it, it just made such a great album as a whole. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So
Definitely a freaking classic. That's them. I didn't know you were all over them. To go back and listen to the tracks today was freaking just fantastic. Your sound, how it's grown, but always had that musical touch to it, man. That soulful vibe. Um,
mm,
Fantastic. You produce on one of my favorite albums of all time. When I played the joint off it, everybody's like, "Man, I still got this." Tell people how you connected with the Bush Babies and how that ultimately led you to connect to one Yasin, and the Ruckus era comes in. Lead us through this, because from what I
right.
hear, it was somebody connecting you to somebody over there.
Yeah. So, and this is the Down South thing. So we had a road manager, Joey. She ended up working for like a business agent or whatever, and we weren't with Down South anymore. We're all doing our thing, and the Bush Babies were signed to that business agent. So she was just talking to Mr. Man a lot. They're all of them, but Mr. Man. So then she really was the one who said, hey, want y'all to meet. And then once Mr. Man or Khalil, once we got together, it was just like we were just connected. He had just gotten his SP, so I was showing him stuff, and like
Okay.
it was just like we were connected. So when it came time for the Gravity album, because we were already just building, it was like, hey, okay, they get ready to start. Ian Alexander, he was the A&R. What label was it? I think they were on Warner Brothers or something like that. And but you know, came up there. We, just decided we could do it. And then from that point, it was like that was an interesting album because during that album was when I rededicated my life to Jesus. So that was like and it was interesting because all of a sudden I found myself, and I never really thought about it, but all of a sudden I'm around like all like the different Muslim groups, you know what I mean? And then like uh Khalil and them at the time were following, and like Malachi York. So it
Hmm.
was like all these different little and I'm this the Christian here, like, and I remember playing on God Complex, I think it is, on the album. And they were doing kind of a spoofy thing of a preacher. And I
Yep, I
remember
remember. Yeah.
I was like, oh God, please forgive me. Like I was just because they weren't doing it to celebrate, Jesus. It was kind of, and I was like, man, but I was new in it. And in that process, the thing though that I love, like we have differences as far as, let's say, spirituality and stuff like that, but we always come back to the thing that's common to man, right? And that's the beautiful thing about music. You see it transcends, cultures, languages, because even when I work with DJ Crush, he didn't really speak English, I didn't really speak Japanese, right? But I couldn't understand his frequencies in order to like interpret what he's saying. We had to each have interpreters. Like, mommy was his interpreter. She kind of spoke English and Japanese, so she did it between. But then yet and still from a musical standpoint, we actually heard the same music. So that's the beautiful thing about literal music itself. You know what I mean? And even vocals to a degree, because vocals are frequencies, they're harmonies. You may
Yeah.
not understand the meaning of it, but we still hear it the
Mhm.
same. We
And,
may
and
not.
and we're still attracted and follow the melodies and stuff. My my
Correct.
my son will not listen to hip hop for any world, but he'll walk around here listening to Korean rock and Japanese freaking uh rap, and I don't even know what he's saying. I'm like, do you understand what you're saying? He's like, no, but I like how it sounds, and he sings along
Yeah.
with it all the time, and he sings it
Yeah.
note for note. And I'm like, how do you know? He's like, I just sing the notes and stuff, and the
Right.
craziest thing.
Right.
But music, man, it is a universal language, right? And
Yeah.
and it is a spiritual thing more. The creation that happens, the sparks that start happening when musical creatives are in a room together, jamming in a band or
Right.
writing together over that synergy. That's something that's unexplainable. It's a mystery, man.
It is. And even like when people who quote unquote from the real school, or however they say it, right? Whatever say. So, but they talk of like some guys talk about like mumble rap, like, but mumble rap is just like we're talking about. You don't understand. Now you may not understand phonetically every word, but it's a melody. It's like a horn. Like it's like
Mm.
you know what I mean? All producers do it. When you're making a beat, before anybody gets on it, you're like, you're not saying anything. And
I don't know if you've seen the Kanye the documentary out
I
on
saw half, one and a half.
1.5. We just finished the third one this past weekend. I thought it was going to keep going and stuff. I'm like, there's still more. I want to see where he was on
Right,
Drink Champs now. But
right, right,
but it's funny because when he's got the beats playing and you see him and coming just with the last line and stuff.
right.
And I remember KRS saying that too. He's like, you hum it through and stuff. And I'm like, that's what mumble rap is, except the stupid kids
Yeah,
they're doing it
it's
in the
nothing to
studio and they
hate
don't
on.
go
It's just
and they don't go back and finish writing it. They just mumble it out and they take the first draft and run with it.
yeah, it's words there though. But the no hate on that. I like some of that stuff for sure. But you back to what you were talking about, Mr. Man, and then the connection. So in those sessions, he actually Most Def was, I did the intro and outro and then two songs. And in the intro and outro, he was kind of getting him to do like some type of poetic
I
type thing,
remember.
right? So I met him, and then when I thought back on it, I realized because I did something recently with the James DeWitt Yancey Foundation for
Okay.
Drumstack, all that stuff like that, and I've known them throughout the past and stuff like that, Ma Dukes and
Little
Tony
Ma
Smith, her
Dukes, yeah.
husband and stuff, yeah, and but I realized that I met Most Def and Jay Dilla in the same week. in that studio. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it was just like that, and obviously they were there because Q-Tip was a connective tissue for a lot of,
Yeah,
even
definitely.
myself. I mean, I'm a triber, right? Like I come, everybody kind of has
Their
their way they
school.
entered in. Yeah, I'm definitely a triber for sure.
Uh,
So
Native tongues is my
so
flag.
yeah, so all of those people were really there, kind of, building and stuff like that. And then Bob Power was there. You know what I mean? Like obviously the major engineer. I had connected with him. I forgot how I met him, but outside of any of them, he would take me to like a school that he would do like an after school program where he was mentoring, even
Okay.
while he was doing all of those successful things, giving back to the community and stuff. And I remember just going to his house. I remember him talking to me about D'Angelo. He was another person I didn't know from Richmond, you know what I
Okay.
mean? But I never physically met him, but talked to him on the phone and, stuff like that. But, I say it all to say it's the thing that we fail to appreciate is just kind of the connective. I use the word connective tissue a lot because that's really what it is. It's like you meet someone in networking, if that's a generic term, right? But when you go and you bump into this person, on this person introduce you to this person, and it's just, and you kind of can look back in retrospect, like, oh man, when I connected with that person, it went here and went there and went there and went there, And a lot of time people like, oh man, you think, oh, y'all just got, it's like, even I found out that Mr. Man is one of those conduits where Talib Kweli and Mos didn't know each other.
Wow.
They were friends with him. They went to two separate schools with him. He introduced them, I think, on the
On the
song
single, on the oh man, the
40, 45
45
Live.
Live, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, on the 45.
So
Wow.
so think about the connection with Black Star. Like he he introduced them, and then eventually they had the Raucous Connections, and then
It
blah
became
blah
Black
blah.
Star,
But
freaking one of the
yeah,
best albums and groups of our era and stuff
yeah,
from a facilitator, right? And one thing I think is super dope, and that all aspiring MCs and producers out there, with what you guys did, going out there to New York, pursuing it, and being out there in the mix, right?
mhm,
There's something to be said with, especially like today, you can make some connections online, right? The very first layer, man. Bam, everybody just
yeah,
talking, but when you're out there and people see dudes in my city, right? And
mhm,
and it's my responsibility to be hospitable and show the best of my
right,
city. And you start building, and you put yourself in a position to be there and network and meet those people. And people
right,
people say blowing up or getting signed back then, or it's all a matter of luck. It's very small talent and mostly luck and knowing somebody or being at the right place at the right time. But if you're
yeah,
not out there and you're not meeting people and you're not making yourself then you can't be at the right place at the right time and know
right,
somebody. So
right.
that's a testament to that, man. From that, you did meet Most, and could you tell us about how that relationship developed and how you ended up uh, putting out one of the? I mean, man, if you could haul, you could hear.
Mm.
When I saw that freaking cover, Most Day, beat it and stuff, freaking dope graph. And I remember at that time, that was like at the beginning of the Shining Suit era. That's
Mm,
Biggie's taking over and stuff. And
yeah,
then so hip hop is going this ultra freaking sellout route. And but hold on, who are these cats rocking this graph and just the beat is nothing. It's not freaking. It's not Harlem World or anything. It's
right, right, right.
man, just a slow. I was like, what? And just an MC doing his thing on it. I was like,
Mm.
yo, um, fantastic freaking record. Could you tell us about when you started working with Mos on that and your introduction into Ruckus? How you got that's an official Ruckus release, right? Or was that?
It
uh,
is, yeah, yeah, yep. That was one of, they had singles prior to that, but so I met him obviously through Mr. Man working on the Bush Baby album. And a little couple of weeks later, he brought it to my house because actually Universal Magnetic, the A side of it,
Okay.
Bush Babies were trying to finish up their album, right? And so I was like, I went home that night toward the end of the sessions and stuff, and that beat came up, and I always joke about it. It was the bird. It's this bird that I always would hear in the morning. I talk about it with Rich Mason. He's a guy who works with all of these guys as well. Like the other day, and sampled it and put it in there, and they heard it, they liked it, right? But it wasn't the single. Pasta News ended up getting the single, right? So for that, so it ended up being when he Mr. Man brought him to the house a couple of weeks later. He ended up picking that for Universal Magnetic. So just because one person doesn't pick something doesn't mean it's meant to be where it is, right? So that, and then
I listened to Universal Magnetic over and over again trying to find that stupid bird in that freaking song. Where is that bird? Where's the bird
it's
sample?
It's like it goes dun, dun. It's like
Is it I'm picturing like a lark, like
no. It goes so I played two different keys, and then at the end it goes making some kind of sputtery noise.
Oh, I gotta listen back.
It sounds like percussion. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
But
and another thing you said,
anyway,
my bad, not to interrupt. Another thing you said that I was completely oblivious to. Pasta News produced "Everybody Move to the." He did. Yo, Pasta's one of my favorite. Like De La is my favorite freaking group all time, man. Pasta's freaking one of my gods, man. I didn't know he freaking got down on productions like that. I didn't know he was.
Yeah,
he did.
That was the last single. That put it this way, I submit, all of us were putting beats in for it. So Universal Magnetic came and they were like, nah, but then he came with that. It was like, hey, this is the single, and then Pasta News did it, so they were gonna parlay on that. You know what I mean? So it worked out. But as far as most, he got a single deal with Rawkus, right? So purely just a single deal. So they hit him with some bread, and he was like, yeah, we were just starting to work, and he was like, yeah, all right. We split it, you know what I mean? And then we ended up recording Universal Magnetic we recorded at Scaffa Anselm's house. So that's Scaffa Anselm from Tribe, right? Yeah. So in the Bronx.
He gets props too.
Yeah, for sure, man. And and he I know why you said it. He gets props too.
He gets props too.
We recorded it, and the if you can hear, I don't think we recorded there. I think we recorded some spot or whatever like that. But so end up having both songs on the single, and then eventually Rawkus became more interested in him. It was, and you mentioned about the cover. So I think that cover was, we did a lyricist lounge, and we performed it, the song or whatever. And then he said, Universal Magnetic in a B-boy stand. He's holding, and his wife at the time, Jeannie, she was a photographer and stuff like that. She took the picture.
Perfect.
So he ended up using that, on the cover and stuff like that.
This is the stands where you say Universal Magnetic in a B-boy stand.
In a B-boy stand.
This is the physical manifestation of Universal Magnetic. Fire, man. After that, I remember I was in a small Christian hip hop crew, and we went up to a Christian radio station up in West Palm Beach where our boy DJ'd on Friday night. And on the way, we stopped at a mall. I found the new Maxi single, right? That had some graffiti dude on it and stuff, a bunch of guys in a cypher in the background. And it had a song called Body Rock on it. I picked it up because it had a freestyle with Mos Def, Black Thought, Common. It was the Stretch and Bobbito freestyle that's on the Maxi single of the Body Rock single. And we just got it because we needed a beat to freestyle at the radio station, right? So we're going all the way up to West Palm. I live in Miami. It's a 2-hour drive. We're going all the way up there, freestyling over the beat to Body Rock, man.
Oh, that's dope.
Brother, what's it like for you as a hip hop fan? And I guess at this time, you're moving in this circle. As you say, you're working with Q-Tip and with the Bush Babies and with all these cats and Pasta News submitting tracks and stuff. But for me as a hip hop fan, and I can imagine for you as a hip hop fan that's now producing these records, what's it like for you to have this record with Most Taj from the Alcoholics, which one of your
Mm.
first
Oh
videos watching is King T.
gosh.
And when I heard you say that on the Mid Atlantic interview, I was like, I wonder if it was that one King T video where the Alcoholics are in it, right? Because
I can't remember
I
yet.
know he's got one video with on it, but you got Taj on it, and bro, when me as a Tribe fan, right, and I think that was post Tribe breakup, post the Source magazine freaking article saying that the Tribe was breaking up, right? It might have been no. I think Love Movement came out right after. Yeah, I think Love Movement came out
Yeah, it was
out
another
around the same
album they had
time.
after that.
Yeah, it came out around the same
Yeah,
time.
the one that they did with Dilla.
Yeah, that's the Love Movement.
They were still together. They were still together because Dilla did an album after that with them. So
okay, yeah, because I remember a Punch and Words were on it, Most was on it and stuff. But to have Tip come out and be on the Lyricist Lounge, and that for me was like, oh, that's the cosign of life. Q-Tip's on this Lyricist Lounge thing, whatever it's gonna be, is gonna be crazy. Who are these ruckus people, right?
Yeah.
What was it like for you, man?
Well, really, Rawkus put it out, but it was Anthony Marshall and Danny Castro and Perry and some other folks, right? So they Perry Ladisberg, I think. Yeah, that's how you say it. So but they really put that together. Rawkus saw the vision and then, and got behind it. Now it was surreal to have Q-Tip rap on a song for sure. I think even for most or any of us, right? Like Q-Tip was Q-Tip and still is, obviously, but that time it's like this is Q. So I remember we recorded that at Firehouse Studios. And he came in, it was like obviously a person at that level, they just do what they do. But he was cool, he came in and did his stuff. But what's interesting though, with his verse, he makes a reference to he said something about why. I don't know. I can't in the beginning of his verse, it's like an ad lib that he says why, right?
Okay.
And most and I pointed out, most and I, we were like, and obviously most is getting to know him a little bit better than I am, but obviously I'm Moses' producer, so it's like I'm, just following along, right? But in the Universal Magnetic, in the very beginning, they A B boys rock the world. Why? Right?
Okay.
That was Moses' son, Elijah. Cause I would record everything, bro. Like I use whatever. Like I love the voices, it sounds as whatever. So we had used Elijah's voice in it. So AB boys rock the world. Why?
Yeah, I remember the why.
They need to take help generate page, right? Yeah. So then when Q-Tip was in the studio and he was recording, right? So and this is a moment between Mos and I, right? Because we're like, and obviously you can hear it but he's in the booth and he says his verse and then he does his ad-lib track. And when he says that in the Body Rock, we were like, oh wow, like he listened to the song to know that deeply.
And he picked that. Wow.
Yeah, it was like we were blown away. I mean, just him as a student of music, like that right there told me, I was like, wow, that's a nuance, And it's a nuance. And look, even the If You Hung Can Hear beat, I had given I forgot how I got it, but I got a beat mixtape to Q-Tip through somebody. I can't remember how I did it, right? And so I saw Q-Tip walking down to Broadway. This was before I met Mos in anything, right? Okay. So, and I remember I said, oh, hey, what's up? He was just walking down the street by himself. And I mentioned, I was like, yeah, I got that tape. He was like, oh yeah. And then he referenced that beat, right? And he was like, yeah, he said, man, you need to make your stuff more up tempo too. Work on doing stuff more up tempo, right? But he's like, dope kid, what I mean? So this is like Q-Tip, what I mean?
And you're a freaking Tribe super fan and shit.
Yeah, man. Oh gosh, man. And I'm just kid coming up and said, keep it going, kid, and then whatever, like
in his Q-Tip voice.
But it's like, amazing to have that moment.
That is fucking awesome.
Later,
Wow, man. And then come back and record that classic with him, which is for us as fans, man, how could I explain it? It's like hearing Busta rhyming with Benny the Butcher now in Conway, right?
Mm,
It's somebody you see as a god, but because he's come up from the underground, did the real hip hop thing, and he's had success at it, and still messing with the underground that was coming at that time, and
sure.
it's real dope because I definitely before we go, I wanna get into your latest venture because it is something that we need right now. MCs that work with producers need the service that you are granting. Drumstacks is a
Mm,
fantastic platform that you've got going. And I love what you say that you represent the next wave of young producers and supporting them and making sure. And that's something that as a man, as we can't help. Age happens, man. The years go by, we grow old, and just like
sure.
you learned, man, time for me to put the pen down and pivot to producing now and stuff. And you felt
For
that call
sure.
and you made that right move, and it was a good financial move. It was a good career move for you, and you didn't get hung up on the ego of no, but I have to be the guy in the limelight. No, but it's my words that they have to
Right.
hear. You were able to make that pivot, and I think as a hip hop community, we come an age where we have to make that pivot of hey, we're in a position now where we got to start teaching the next generation and make sure that they're coming up
Yeah.
right, and have the right tools and the right foundation. Not judge them and not make fun of them, but make sure
Yeah, sure.
that we're raising them right. So I definitely want to hit on that, man. But before that, I just want to thank you, man, for all of the work that you put in during that era. The Elder Sensei single with Organized
Frontline.
Confusion, the
Yeah,
Frontline
yeah,
joint with Mike Zoo,
yeah.
man, that's one of my college radio freaking joints. When yo, I
Appreciate
spit
it,
data
man.
that freaking the Caterpillar truck. Come on, yo, every that whole joint was my shit. The player haters is
Oh,
or the
cool.
hater
Black
players on the Black
right.
Star album has one of my favorite most deaf verses of all time. His description when I brought you on, I was going through it. I'm like I could go through this,
Right.
man. Just
Thank you, man.
classics that you put down, man, and you definitely left your fingerprint, your thumbprint in. Not, I mean, there's people that they produce joints. I'm like I've never heard that song, but
Right.
you left it on a bunch of classics that changed a lot of people's lives during their college careers, during their formative years, man, and
Thank you, man.
got them through on some good stuff, man. And I want to thank you for being in a position where you even with your faith, you didn't say, "No, I'm not going to work with you." No, man, you made yourself
Yeah.
available, and because of it, I love the fact that you said during the Gravity album, I came back to the Lord and I made a decision to follow because that's one of the dopest hip hop albums, but it's also one of the most positive hip hop albums, man. At that time,
Hmm.
that message
ultimately I found out, I was like, oh man,
You rushed
this,
the
and this
spot,
was
huh?
some years ago. Yeah, something from a trademark standpoint. I was like, oh, and I was in the process of doing my trademark. So I was like, oh, got my lawyer like do a cease and desist, like whatever. So then she was like, yeah, he wants to talk to you. So we were talking and stuff. And I realized like he knew who I was and stuff, but I realized it wasn't like he was just trying to take my name and parlay it into something, right? I think
Okay.
his name is Joel, so I get the J. I'm
Mhm.
assuming that's where he got the J from. But and I respect his hustle. You know what I'm saying? And look, yeah, you could try to fight that and do all that stuff. And obviously I existed before then,
Mhm.
but it was like I was like, all right, so we agreed to coexist.
All
What I
right.
mean? So from that standpoint, if there's any confusion in the marketplace, because that's the nature of trademark. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
That's why you watch Coming to America, and he was worried about McDonald's because he was McDowell's
Because it was
instead of the
McDonald's.
Golden
Yep.
Arches. We got the
Man,
Golden Arches. You know?
you mess up your name on freaking a distro kid by one letter, or you misspell it like with a capital in a wrong place. Oh,
Yeah.
that junk ain't on your discography. It's on the other H. It's a freaking
Yeah,
mission, man.
but because J Period and Shawn J, I mean, it has the same kind, the core. You know what I mean? Um, but that's what we agree to
We thought it
clear
was
any
you. I thought he
confusion.
just wasn't using Sean anymore. I thought he was just using
Yeah,
J.
yeah, no, that's why I use the mask. No, no, no. And if you see us in person, you'll know we look like two different people. You know what I'm
Definitely.
saying?
But
So
shout out to J Period, man. His mixtape series
for
are
sure,
fantastic, man. What he's done with the blends, man. His homage to native tongues, fantastic. Um,
for
I'm
sure.
I'm still waiting for him to drop the next part of that thing he's got going with Dave Chappelle doing the
Yeah,
man.
yeah, that thing
Fantastic.
is dope. I mean, somebody hit me up online and was saying, "Oh man, you did the thing with Black Thought." I mean, look, and look, periodically, that's it's understood. You know what I mean? That you go have some of that, right? So, but I, I I'm grateful, like far as like he's dope at what he does, man. Like you know what I mean? So
That-
it's just a matter of just saying, "Hey, nah, that's his stuff," or this, you know what I mean? But I like the fact if we had to say representing the J Period brand as a whole, he's doing a good job. You know what I mean?
uh,
So,
just tell him to freaking help you push freaking drum tracks, man. Let's talk before we get to drum tracks because I think it's a very important
Drumstacks.
drum man. And I will mess up a name every time. Drumstacks. It's
No
written right
problem.
on your shirt. Let me make sure I freaking represent it right. I have it right in front of me. Um, before we get to that, because I think it is a very important part of any artist's story. And
Mm,
it's a part that gets the most downplayed, it gets overlooked, it gets brushed under. We don't want to talk about that. We have a limited amount of time. Let's just talk about the new album, what you got pushing, is that.
mhm,
But the process of being an artist and growing, when we get into it, a little obsessive, we go in.
mhm,
Sometimes it's the only thing we see. And there's times we need a break. We need to charge batteries. We need to tap into something else to give us that love of life, that joy that we express, or the emotions that we express. Can you tell the people at home a little bit about the break that you took when you approached me? You're like, yeah, doing this, took a little bit of time off, and now I'm doing this venture. Can you tell the people at home a little bit about that and how that later prepared you to go into the new venture that you got going on?
So you want me to describe like the period of time I took off and
Yeah.
then go? Okay, okay, gotcha. So, I mean, one of the main things that caused me to take the time off was when I stopped sampling. Right, I have nothing against sample. My favorite songs are sample songs, right? But in the business, they teach you, to kind of try to skirt it, and it's not good. And back then, you didn't have the Shazams and all of that stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I, I had rededicated my life, to the Lord. And then I remember reading the scripture. It said, let him who stole steal no more, but let him work with his hands that he may have to give to those in need. So between that, and I was like, I knew I was, but I was already playing stuff too. So I didn't necessarily need it to do it, but it was like, I just loved the sound. Right. And then my lawyer worked in television. So at that time, obviously you get something on television and it gets heard, you sign agreements that say that you won't violate a third party's rights and stuff like that. That just puts it back on you. You know what I mean? So So in that context, it put me in a place where I was like, I don't really have any music right now. I was trying to figure myself out, and then got married, at the time. Ultimately divorced and then remarried and stuff like that. But grateful for the experience and stuff like that. And so I took time off in life, you know what I mean? But all the while I'm still developing music and just kind of figuring out what I want to do. And then I reconnected some years back with Olo from the Beat Conductors, a group out of DC. They do beat battles and stuff like that.
Okay.
And he had reached out to me on Messenger on Facebook. And he said, yeah, can you come down and judge a battle? And I'm like, all right, cool. So when I went down there, I just wasn't thinking about it. I was like, I'm gonna go, it'd be nice to get out, but I so fell in love with that community, right, of producers, the guys and girls there, as far as the producers. But I was just like, wow, like I really love producers. like it's like a fish in water. It's like, but and from there I just would judge all kinds of battles and still to this day and do all kind, and it's like it really it's fulfilling for me, you know what I mean? Because it's like, and boy, when they say OG, I didn't like it at first because I'm like, you want to be the fresh, you want to be fresh, you know what I mean? I'm like, I still make heat. I still, right? And I think I still do. I think I could make better stuff than I ever had, right? But you have to give space for like those coming up, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if I can talk to them about, hey, their value, right? Like, even if someone's not giving you upfront money, make sure you get your publishing. I learned that the hard way in my first deal, right? So if I can share certain things and just be a mentor to, different people call me, like, we talk on the phone. I can't talk to everybody. I try to do things like this to share certain things or whatever like that, but I try to, just help as many as I can. Obviously rappers too, but mainly it's a lot of producers that, since I was mainly known as a producer, right? So, so in that whole process, I went to A3C in Atlanta, down the end, but I didn't even attend. I was just going to work with a friend on some songs and stuff. And my publisher and lawyer at the time, Vinny Kumar, he basically represents like Illmind and all this stuff. So right when I was coming back from the airport, and look, that trip, I was like, I just paid. I'm like, I just need to get out. And I'm like, and I was just, God, I just need this trip, right? I just went, right? And right when I was about to come back to the airport, he said, all right, come out to brunch. So, went out to brunch, and Jonathan Master, his Illmind's manager, came, and they were talking about Illmind. I saw he was doing the sound design thing and stuff like that, drum kits and stuff. And so then he was talking about doing something with them, like their kits so hard. And that's how I met Atlas, who works with them and stuff. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. I said, but I just had in my mind, I wanted to do something. Because I always did sounds anyway. I mean, it may be from unique sources. Like we're talking about recording birds. On the Artifacts, Return to the Wrong Side, I recorded the train ride from where I left in Brooklyn to Manhattan and put it underneath. Like just, and I mean, obviously that's obscure stuff, but then, chords and, stuff like that. So in the process, I was like, okay, well, I want to venture out and do something on my own, right? And maybe a subscription way, because I had a failed subscription some years back, and I was like, I like the idea. So I was racking my brain, and like, so it came with the name Drumstacks, right? And it's the whole idea of, drum the beat, but building on it. So it's not just sounds, but like this, we're building on this thing that we can't escape, this heartbeat, the beat within us, right? No matter what we're doing in our lives, a person who has music inside of them, a sound, they can't get away from it. You know what I mean? Even if it's at another job somewhere or something like it, So I decided from the sound standpoint, just to do something unique, just, chord stuff or whatever, right? Whatever that, but I wanted freedom to create. And I saw that guys were selling the stuff, they'll do maybe like 20 or 30 or 40, they'll sell it $30 or whatever like that. I'll make this brief, so because
No, no,
I
no,
know
no,
we
no,
have time.
please. No, no.
Yeah.
I actually have a community of producers that watch us. And when I first heard of Drumstacks, I said, "This is fantastic." When I first asked you to please be on the show, it was just because of your name and because of your history. I had
Mm,
no idea about Drumstacks. When I found that out, they're like, "That is fantastic." And
mm.
I don't know if you noticed, but I've been promoting it for the last 2 days because of all the
Thank you,
producers
man.
that we know. No, man, it is a fantastic. And when with what you're talking about a subscription base, that's something that you could say, hey, every month you pay this. But the fact that you went into it with, buy into subscription every month, I'll update it and you'll have new sounds, man.
Yeah.
And I could tell you have a heart for the producer and just sharing that and helping folks avoid the pitfalls of getting their money taken because of sampling, man,
Yeah.
because of those pitfalls that you went.
Yeah, and look, if you're paying for the sample, great. That's I have none against it, right? Whatever, like you do. But the thing, even this thing is, it's set up it's set up like a subscription, but really, like the delivery part is a subscription. But because I was wrestling, I'm like, everybody's like, man, you should just charge a year, like Splice or these other companies. They charge monthly or yearly, and I was like, yeah, but every time I tried to start, I'm like, I wouldn't hit the top of the year. I was just like, oh man, and I was just like frustrated with it. And then one day I got the idea. I was like, well, what if I just charge one time, right? Like you pay one time because I want people to have the sounds anyway, right? Like, because if you're buying it piecemeal, no matter how much you love, like I love all kinds of guys, right? Like the Rucker Collective and all this like amazing stuff. But it's just realistically, only a couple of people will buy everything, right? It's just the nature of, and that model works. Like this is no hate to that model. That works. But then I was like, well, what if I just charge, $39.99 one time? So the transaction is done. Now it's on me to feel, and it's over a course of time, like adding 100 or more sounds a month, right? Now I found that, like, obviously people are like, wow, that's good, right? Oh, that's a good deal. And it is. My wife thought and still thinks I'm crazy.
You're giving away the house.
She said, look, she said, you, and she would try to, because we were having a financial conversation, right? She's like, yeah, and you down there doing free sound.
Well, they do it every time, man. Come
I
on.
was like, oh. So, but the idea though, I just wanted the freedom to create, right? Without having to, and I have to work on my marketing a little bit. Like like this is good because it's getting people to know it. Like if everybody puts in, you and I keep adding. I'm a little bit behind now because I got caught up in like, I just really was getting too cerebral with it. I was like, I tend to be a perfectionist with it. So I was like, and I backed myself up a little bit in it, but I'm like catching back up with it. But it's like 525 things there. So there's plenty there, right? So
Every producer that's listening right now, man, go to Drumstacks, follow at Drumstacks on IG. He's got all the information in the link of his bio. Get in there.
Yeah.
He's already got over 500 sounds. I loved how you were describing. I go into a dryer and I bang out, and then I'll modulate that. I'll run it through the effects, and those are sounds that you're not going to get anywhere else, man. Wow.
Yeah, like effects pedals and just whatever. But see, the thing is, it's the experimentation. Like, and I always said, like, as a producer needs all kinds of things in the toolkit, right? And I'm not trying to be everything, because you still go out and you go get stuff from records and you go make your own stuff and you go get just plugins and you go whatever, right? But in that process, if it's almost like I want it to be the no-brainer where people are like, all right, oh boom, I got that, that's subtle, and it keeps adding. I'll just keep seeing what's it. But like I use the example of like record pops, right? Because I stopped sampling, right?
Okay.
And I may sample again. If I did, it would be for some type of label situation, whatever, right? So this is not a sample question. But the idea of the grit of the record, right?
I love
and
that sound
the way
of the
that,
vinyl. Oh, okay.
yeah, right. And
that?
they have plugins that do it and stuff like that. But I love the fact when the needle is on it, it's recording the motor of the turntable, like all of the stuff that goes with that, right? And I was like, man, if I was going to do 25 record pops, like who would buy that? Like it was like, but if I, but I know it's an important element to have, right? As a producer, right? So if it's all bundled and just pay one time, 39.9, and then I'm adding sounds, you're more willing to accept the esoteric stuff that you may not realize you need as a producer, but like, man, that little thing, because those record pops are like, that's percussion. You know what I mean? And so it's anyway, man, getting excited about that. That's so
But that's awesome, man. And you're doing a service, brother. For us now, where we are pampered, where right now, if our alternator broke and we really wanted to, we could go to YouTube and say how to change an alternator, and there'll be
for
some
sure.
guy doing a video. We have that video because some guy who just loves mechanics said, "Hey, honey, record me while I change his alternator for an hour and
Yeah,
stuff." And maybe somebody will watch it, but it's there, and that's the same thing you're doing. You're putting in the time of recording. The thought of who's gonna want 25, but because it's there now, people are like, oh, I
yeah,
know where to find that bomb. Drum stacks, right? I gotta get
yeah.
this out.
.com. Yep.
Drumstacks.com. You guys gotta get it. Brother, what new music is there? Any new music that you're cooking up that we could expect in the future?
Yeah, man. I've done like some things here and there. It's funny because as of recent or like doing like the demos and things like that, I'm like, man, I like I'm watching all these kids. Like I mentor like a lot of the producers. Like Kelsey's a young guy, really mentored. Like my brother, he's working with this artist Kumbaya. Like they made all of these folks. They're just doing their thing. Soundtrack. He ended up getting with John. Like he was already doing this thing anyway, but it's just I talked to a lot of the guys, and and the competitor in me is rising up because I'm like I'm talking to y'all, and I'm like it is like, yeah, I'm mentioning y'all, man, but the OG still got something in the tank, boy. Come on, man. You know what I mean? So I've been really thinking about like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? I was talking to my friend Ayamas Marad. He was from Chicago. He kind of grew up with like Kanye and all this stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, Dope MC. And the other day I was riding the bus home and I was like, cause I need someone to pour into. I don't just want to randomly people approach me about buying beats and stuff like that. And I like that, right? But I'm less likely I want to do like I did with the artifacts or what like I tend to thrive more in that because if I get an artist and I'm like, oh, I did that, and then I'm like, oh, would you like that? Let me try that, and then let me try that. It gets me excited because I can see the facets coming together, like we're making a jewel, you know. And so I'm considering just doing maybe an EP with him. I'm an artist, man, and and we'll see. I'm actually looking to take on some management, which I haven't in you know really never. I used to really manage myself, but I realized that is if I want to get to the next level and just I need some help, you know what I mean? And so, nothing specific, but I am definitely, charged up about doing some work. So, if I get some things going, I'll be sure to slide it your way for
We
some
are here for it.
exclusives.
And please, Shawn J, any of your young producers you're working with and young MCs, if they got stuff that you know is worth it, please send it down here, man. All we do is support independent artists, and we would love to push their music and for them to be able to hear, hey, got your stuff playing at a radio station down in Miami and stuff
Yeah,
to a hip hop crowd out there. That's the important thing, man, to get into ears
for sure.
of people who understand and love it. Another question I wanted to ask you. A lot of people always ask, what producer would you like to work with? Or dream of what MC would you dream of working with? I got a nice little twist on that. Any dope Christian MCs that
Mm,
you might follow that you might ever consider putting out an album with? Because the Christian market is a whole other market, a whole other industry, man.
for sure.
Being that your name is an established name and you're a brother of faith, I think that would be a fantastic marriage of the two and stuff. Do you follow the Christian underground at all?
I mean, I did, man. Like, I did for a time. Like, even IMS, he's a Christian brother,
All
right?
right.
I
Wow.
mean, we not um but the approach is similar where it's like you know, we speak of Jesus, right? Like it's important, source, right? But we're not gonna beat you. Like
Have to push it down their
it
throat.
it doesn't violate us, but it's like it's quality stuff. You know what I'm saying? Um, dude. See, I don't want to say something that man.
I don't want to speak something
It
into
was a guy named
existence. God's gonna hear me and open up all them doors real quick.
yeah, no. I remember somebody was putting me up on a guy like Show Baraka, I think, something like
Ooh,
that.
Show Baraka's fantastic, yo.
Yeah.
That brother is a beast.
Yeah, I remember hearing some stuff. I was like, oh, dope. Who's interesting? And not even an MC. Music. Oh, what's his name? Molly Music, right?
Yeah.
I think he does like a Christian guy, but it's like a lot of like cross pop stuff. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you should check. He's a singer, man. But his stuff, you've heard his stuff and you just didn't realize it.
Word?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Molly, MALI Music.
Gotta check him out. Have you heard of this dude? I'll leave you with a name so you could do your own search and stuff. I've been
Okay.
playing it for the brothers here a lot. His name is Norman San. He spells it with 2 N's. Norman San, SANN. And he's got man, check
Is
that.
this the guy with those YouTube
With the
IG
TikTok videos?
Oh,
Fire, my God.
bro.
Yo, he said freaking, yo, TikTok's hating on me. They took down my video, it hit 2 million hits, and they took it down. I'm like, and yo, that's some positive joints. He's got bars. Norman San, man, he is a beast, man. Singing.
Do you know him?
I'm playing a lot of his joints, and I'm trying to make a connect with the man. If you go and you look up his discography, you got to see the breadth of his range, man. That dude.
Yo, I did actually. If it's the same, it's brown skin brother with like his hair
with the fro
like,
and stuff that
right?
he does the singing, the operatic singing, everything. Yes, brother.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole. I was like, okay, I'm looking, and then he's like spitting, right? And then sometimes I'm like, I saw wondering how he did his videos because he's laying there
and stuff with the cake around him.
And I'm like, and then I saw somewhere he was like, he was singing, and I'm like, oh, bro. But it's funny you mentioned him because I remember like watching the videos. It was a week ago, and I was like, dude, I would love to work with this guy because his versatility, like,
Let's speak it out into the universe, brother.
man.
I'm gonna attempt to play that viscous, play that Mr. Man role and stuff, and see if I could go ahead and freaking float you guys each other's information because that would be fantastic.
Oh, for sure, bro.
Shawn, this conversation has been fantastic, brother. Can you please tell the people at home where they could find you, follow you, and support everything you do?
All right. Mainly on IG is Shawn J period SHAWN period spelled out music. That's the main spot I'm on, and drumstacks.com, That's it.
Everybody out there, please go back, support his past discography, support his new. What do you think about LP coming out today and giving props to Spotify for letting somebody else upload Funk Crusher Plus that wasn't him?
Say it again.
You didn't hear about that today? LP came out. He's like, "Hey, way to go, Spotify! I found out that Funk Crusher Plus is streaming on your service, and I never uploaded it to you guys. Somebody else freaking uploaded Funk Crusher Plus up to Spotify, and now is getting the credit for it."
But the thing is too, though, that's always a potential. You know what I mean? Like, particularly like in foreign markets, like you won't know unless someone tells you. You know.
They're like, hey, thanks for finally putting it up, LP. They're like, yeah, I'm glad. I ain't getting paid off it, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad to know that God has kept the doors opening for you, man. That you are doing healthy, that your family's doing good, man, and that you're getting excited to provide new music to. We're super excited to have you on. You're one of my favorite producers from that era, man, and this is a bucket list for me. So thank you so very much for taking the time.
Appreciate it, man.
Can you bless us just with a quick drop? Just let them know your name and let them know you're rocking with WVCC, Saif Life. But you got to say it just like that. Can you do that?
Saif Life. So
just like that.
All right. Wow. Yo, this is Shawn J. Period. Tell me. Sorry.
Shawn J. Period. I'm rocking with WVCC, Saif Life.
WVCC. Okay. Yeah. This is Shawn J. Period. rocking with WVCC, Safe Life.
Flow. Yo, thank you so very much, big brother, man. Yo, anytime that you got new music or just want to talk, brother, please flow me an email, man. I hope that the lines of communication are open the same way the other way, man. I would love
For
to
sure.
talk to you.
Yeah. Email me your number. We can talk like that. I prefer to just build, set a back and forth between characters.
On the emails and stuff. I feel that a lot.
Yeah,
man.
no, that's a starting point. But yeah, send me your number.
Bomb. Shawn J, it's been a freaking pleasure, and I promise I will never get you mixed up with J. Period in the Hamilton soundtrack again.
Yeah, no, hey, look, that's a good mix up though. It brings forward conversation,
Man, I told my kids today, you know who I'm interviewing today? He worked on the Hamilton sound. My kids freaking, the only raps that they know are freaking Hamilton songs. That's the only raps they know.
Sorry to disappoint, kids.
Sorry, kids. It wasn't that, Shawn J. Shawn J, thank you so very much, brother. I'm gonna take them out with I'm gonna bring back that hater players, man. Bomb and bring them out with that most F verse. I love you, big brother. Be good, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Bless.